This video isn't about Ted Kaczynski as a person, and it's definitely not defending the things he did. But to understand where he was undeniably correct, we have to first understand who he was. Most people only know Ted as the Unabomber, but Ted's background and his ideology are much more complex than most people think. Kaczynski was a math prodigy. He skipped both the 6th and 11th grade, and he attended Harvard at the age of 16. After graduating, Ted became the youngest professor in Berkeley history, teaching mathematics at the age of 25. By any definition, Ted was absolutely a genius. In 1969, Ted abruptly quit his tenured position at Berkeley and built a log cabin in the wilderness of Lincoln, Montana. At this point, Ted had become fed up with modern society. In his cabin, Ted aimed to live self-sufficiently without the need for any outside resources. Ted's perspective was that modern society had become inimical to human nature and we needed to just blow it all up and start all over again. He constructed and mailed a series of bombs. The targets of these attacks were people that Ted deemed to be necessary to the continuation of the system. These included marketing executives, timber industry lobbyists, and computer scientists. His attacks killed and injured a total of 26 people. While carrying out these bombings, Ted wrote a manifesto. In the 35,000-word essay, Ted outlines the impacts the Industrial Revolution and mechanization has had on society. He demanded that his writings be published in a major newspaper. He said if it was published, he would stop the attacks. The manifesto was then published in 1995 on the Washington Post. Ted's manifesto covers a lot of different ideas, but there's one in particular that stuck with me. Ted believed that you could not eliminate the negative effects of technology with more technology. In every system, there exists externalities. Externalities are the unwanted repercussions that a system doesn't directly account for. In other words, the problems that are created downstream. You can think of externalities as the side effects of a medication. You take Adderall for your ADHD, but then that keeps you up at night, so you take melatonin to fall asleep. But then whenever you wake up in the morning, you feel groggy, so you take some caffeine pills, but then the caffeine pills make you jittery, and etc, etc, etc. It goes on forever. Ted's argument was that whenever you try to fix these side effects, you don't actually remove them, you just fragment them. For example, in capitalism, cheap energy equals growth, and growth equals a higher standard of living. But even here, there are unaccounted negative externalities. The issue is that these long-term consequences are not factored into the current price. We can attempt to fix this by implementing taxes, regulations, and opting for cleaner energy, but this will still result in a higher cost of goods and disproportionately impact poor people. The system will adapt. The damage doesn't disappear, it just fragments. Ted believed that this same pattern applies to all technology. He said that these new inventions had caused irreparable damage to the human mind. Closely built cities caused anxiety and paranoia. Jobs caused stress and depression. Working towards a goal in a hobby was a never-ending and pointless pursuit. The bodybuilder will never be big enough. The card collector will never have enough cards. And the pro athlete will never run a mile fast enough. And that's what this video is actually about. That's the part that I agree with the Unabomber on. His opinion on negative externalities. Think about a relatively recent technological advancement. For example, the modern car. When Carl Benz introduced the Benz patent motor wagon in 1886, the car was novel. No doubt an interesting new development in transportation, but one with little practical usage. It only had a meager 12 mph top speed. But as cars eventually improved with higher speeds, longer ranges, and cheaper prices, they eventually started to overtake other transportation methods. More cars started to appear on the roads. This obviously accounted for more economic growth, job opportunity, and larger, more spread out cities. But there was of course a cost to this. On August 17th, 1896, Bridget Discroll was struck and killed by a car while trying to cross the street. Nowadays, nearly 1.2 million people die every year from automobile accidents. I'm not saying that cars or even technology in general are inherently bad. I'm just pointing out that there are trade-offs with every advancement. Imagine an evil genie gave you an offer. He said he would make transportation twice as fast for the average person, but in turn, he would kill 250,000 people every year. Would you take that? Probably not, but that's the same trade-off we make every day when we use cars. Now, why is this? Why do we feel so repelled by trading human life for efficiency when we don't even think twice about the technology we use to do it? There's another example of this pattern that's way older. Older than you or me, older than cars, older than capitalism, the agricultural revolution. The agricultural revolution is, in my opinion, the most significant event of all human history. In the book Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, the author makes quite a controversial argument. He says that the agricultural revolution had a vastly negative impact on humans. Before agriculture, humans were hunter-gatherers. They ate diverse diets, moved with the seasons, and weren't tied to a physical location. But once humans started farming, a whole lot of problems appeared. Our diets became much less diverse. We became more prone to illness and actually had a lot less food security. We were forced to stay in the same place regardless of weather, drought, or soil quality. Skeletal evidence shows an increase in arthritis, chronic lower back problems, and knee issues, all from bending, planting, and harvesting day after day for generations. Farming also introduced seasonal hunger. There were months where you simply could not harvest food. So you either had to rely on your stored food or go hungry. Hunter-gatherers didn't have this problem. With agriculture came grain-heavy diets, less protein, less variety, less micronutrients. The earliest evidence of heart disease happened after the agricultural revolution. When you look at all this, a hunter-gatherer likely lived a far happier and healthier life than a farmer working on a self-sufficient farm. So why did agriculture win? It didn't make people happier, but it did allow populations to grow. A farm only works under very specific conditions. You need water, the right soil, the right climate, potentially multiple crops, potentially livestock. So people stopped being nomadic. They had to stay close to their land, and close to each other. This is how the first villages formed, then towns, then cities. This is where the Unabomber comes back in. The agricultural revolution is the root system. Agriculture solved a problem, food production, but it introduced 1,000 new ones. Disease, hierarchy, labor, ownership, scarcity. But now you may be asking, why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep advancing, even when in retrospect things often get worse? I think it's because humans are driven to improve, as individuals and as a species. This is often a double-edged sword. We want more, better, faster, easier, cheaper. This instinct is why we survived. It's also why we overshot. We're so focused on what we're gaining that we don't realize what we're losing. And a lot of the time, we don't even realize what we had until it's gone. Now, this video isn't to say that progress is evil, but progress surely isn't free. And every time we push forward, someone pays the cost. And sometimes that someone is us. If you watched this far into the video, thank you. If you want to subscribe, you can. Thank you for watching.